Cup and play in the round of 16 and maybe lose there. I mean, I don't think they're good enough to make it to the semifinal. I think if we lower expectations, I feel like there'll be less disappointment. I feel like if we say Costa Rica is a lot better side than the United States, then we wouldn't be saying. Then a lot of people wouldn't be saying, "Well, the USA looked terrible against Costa Rica, and it was a terrible result against Costa Rica." It's just a common misperception by the American fan, and it's like I said in our conversation with Noah, we treat Honduras like it's Malta, but Honduras is still a quality side.
They qualified for the World Cup in 2014.
Exactly, they're a quality side, and I think people fail to realize that. And Noah hit the hammer right at the head when he talked about swinging on a pendulum. Like they'll go, oh yeah, they're really great, or oh yeah, we suck. There's no like the last. If you look throughout the last two, what'd you say after the first two games? Oh wow, we suck. Jurgen out. And the next two, we're like, oh, those are good results. They were fine, even though we kind of struggled against Trinidad and whatnot. Then you look to the next two, and you're like, wow, we suck. And now we're back at like, oh wow, we suck. So what's the next one gonna be? Wow, we're great after two games. Like it's crazy.
No, I mean, let's start breaking down the rosters of each World Cup since '02, and I want to ask you, Armand. You know, we talk about the expectation. In 2002, we had the most successful run at the World Cup, getting to the quarterfinals. We shocked Portugal in a 3-2 victory.
Right.
And then we drew Korea, and then somehow lose to Poland.
The host.
Yeah, the host. We lose to Poland, but we had enough to get on to get through, and then we beat Mexico 2-0. And that's really where it began. Then Germany comes up, and boy, did we get unlucky against Germany.
Absolutely.
Wasn't it not the handball or something happened that I forget that the United States could have beat Germany, and then suddenly you're in the semifinal. But is that the most talented squad that we've ever had? Is that really the team that we should look forward to? And everybody's like, well, this is really a talented squad with Christian Pulisic, Fabian Johnson, Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore. You know, you say, but are we all that talented?
Yeah, I mean, it's really an interesting debate because like, is the team really talented or not? I want to say that the team is not as talented as we perceive. I do think we do have depth in the defense. It just depends if they mesh well. Midfield, I mean, outside of Bradley, the rest of the team is kind of just like, just a lot of them unproven on the national team stage. I mean, outside of Pulisic, you have Acosta, you have Nagby, you have Fabian Johnson, who's been coming off injury, who's been struggling a little bit and whatnot. And I mean, now that you have all these midfielders that are kind of I mean, the forwards, you still have Josie. Bobby Wood's broken onto the scene, but I mean, I think they're not as such a strong side as we perceive. If that makes any sense, I think these players are quality MLS players, but are they quality on the international stage? That's the question we got to ask ourselves.
Yeah, that's the thing is, Christian Pulisic plays in the second. Borussia Dortmund's the second largest club in Germany, as far as popularity, as far as quality, as far as expectation to succeed, and he's performed well. But I get the sense that he comes to this national team, and Bruce Arena does a Klinsmann and puts him kind of out of position, or kind of puts him in a spot where he can't maximize his talent, and it's kind of it hinders the team. Fabian Johnson plays Borussia Mönchengladbach. They were playing in the Champions League not too long ago. And he was completely useless against Costa Rica. I mean, invisible. You don't remember hearing his name whatsoever on the broadcast. You forget that he even played. So you go through the squad.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in 2002, who was our best player?
Looking through there, I'm 100% sure.
Is it Landon Donovan because he won the Young Player Award?
I mean, off the top of my head, I mean, Brian McBride's quality. Claudio Reyna was really good. He played at Sunderland.
You had the
You look through that
goalkeepers.
roster. Chirindolo as well. Casey Keller, Brad Friedel.
DeMarcus Beasley.
Yeah, it's funny how you see his name in O2.
He's that old.
It's actually funny. It's actually funny. You go down this list. Brad Friedel's a commentator now. Berhalter is coach of the Crew. Mastroni just got fired as a coach of the Rapids. Ernie Stewart works in the Union front office. Claudio Reyna works in the NYCFC front office. Kobe Jones, a commentator. DeMarcus Beasley still plays. Casey Keller, commentator. Landon Donovan, commentator. Like it's interesting going through our list and you seeing that DeMarcus Beasley is still playing. Yeah, I mean, you look through that side. I mean, there's something that you notice is there's a lot of European players on that roster.
Yeah, it is. It is weird to see that because if you go through it, in 2002 you had 11 MLS-based players. 06 it was the 11, but you go to the 2010 World Cup squad, there were 4 MLS players, and you look at that squad. You had Timmy Howard, Booker Negra, Michael Bradley, who was only 22, Steve Cherundolo, DeMarcus Beasley, Dempsey, Gomez, Donovan, Stuart Hold'em, Ricardo Clock, Bundle, Altidore, Guzan, Adu. You would say that was a talented squad, and look, they were all playing at European, in what Klinsmann would say the important leagues in Europe at the Evertons, Borussia Mönchengladbach, Milan, Hanover, Fulham, Bolton Wanderers, Frankfurt. You saw all these players in Europe, and then you see a switch in 2014 and goes back to MLS-based heavy, where suddenly you had all this money in MLS and you see these players coming back. So it's each period does not correlate to success of the national team, but it is a weird swing, and it's interesting to see what happens to this national team in the next 10 years.
Oh, absolutely! It is really interesting to see where they'll go from here because we're looking at these rosters right now. I mean, what's a trend that we've been seeing in MLS? A lot of the players that are international quality are starting to come back home. That means that there are going to be more MLS players on the roster. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is the competition good or bad for them?
We're going to talk about that in the next segment, whether or not the MLS is actually good or bad for the national team. Because what was Klinsmann's biggest criticism of Major League Soccer? It was the lack of quality. Why did he really push his players to play in Europe? Why did he say, Bobby Wood, you're better off staying here in Europe? Why did he really try to get players to stay there? Julian Green, why do you think he brought him on the squad? It was to make the emphasis of, hey, Europe has the best quality. You're going to surround yourself with the best. But we're actually going to take a quick break, and we're actually going to continue that thought. Whether or not MLS, with the growth that it has seen in recent years, is it good for the national team?
Yep. Welcome back, listeners. How are y'all doing? We got a nice episode going on.
Yeah, a lot of USA. No MLS talk this week. It's okay. Because I think this national team deserves a lot more coverage than we've seen in the media. And I hate Skype, but Skype is wonderful, yet it's a pain in our butts.
Yeah, it's been killing me, but hopefully just reboot the computer. Hopefully it will sound a lot better this time.
Absolutely. Armand, MLS. Grown tremendously, huh?
Oh, yeah, it's growing fantastically at the rate. Positive stuff for the league.
And I've criticized Major League Soccer. I've criticized FC Dallas.
You used to hate Major League Soccer.
I didn't hate it. I just think it was so terrible. And living up here in Wisconsin, the great state of Wisconsin, a lot of great sports enthusiasm here. Okay, sports runs deep. Packers, University of Wisconsin-Madison, everywhere you go. But soccer here is like, and with no MLS squad around, it's boring. Let me tell you, the soccer culture here is even worse than Dallas, it's bad enough, but here it's like, oh, soccer is a sport. Like, you just don't, people don't seem to recognize it. You'd say, oh, do you have a Premier League game on? They're like, what's that? And you're like, what? Like, you go to a bar in Dallas, it's like, it's probably the first thing that's on. Most people will flip to the Premier League games because they know it brings in people. It's weird. But the MLS has definitely grown, and I think it's starting to become more important. Atlanta United's opened up against Dallas here in their new stadium. It's gonna be.
And it looks like, it's gonna be starting in an hour.
Yeah, an hour from this recording, or at this time of the recording, and it's going to be berserks, right? But has the growth of Major League Soccer actually impacted the national team for better than worse? Has it helped more than has it negatively impacted? I think it actually has hindered the growth of the national team because MLS has started to grow this money, and this money is being distributed now to top players. Well, the top players, and so market-wise, it's the U.S. players, right? Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, they're high on the list when it comes to the payroll. Timmy Howard, right? You see all these Americans wanting to come back. Paul Arriola, gets signed from by DC United. Why? Because he's an American. He's somebody to market around. And then, so what are we going to do? So MLS is going to be, talent-wise, the best players outside of a couple are American, right? But if you play in a different league, you're not, unless you're Christian Pulisic, you're not at the top-end level. You're always playing against somebody who's higher up on the ladder when it comes to the talent level. So you're diluting the quality you're surrounding yourself and your competition. It's helping Costa Rica, Honduras, and these countries more than it is helping the United States.
Yeah, it's a really interesting debate that you bring up, that the MLS is hurting the U.S. men's national team. My thoughts is it is helping Central America. You saw Urania score twice against the United States. You saw Kyoto from the Dynamo score against the United States. You saw Elise from the Dynamo also playing really well. I don't think you can blame the MLS for U.S. men's national teams. I think some of that blame needs to fall on the players, if that makes sense. It's not the MLS's job to be a league for the national team. It's not their job. Just like how the English team can. I think Marina said this, but it's like the English team struggles, even though they have one of the best leagues in the world. Most of the teams are made up of players that aren't necessarily English. Yeah, exactly, foreign based. Yeah, so I don't think it's a job function of the league to provide for the national team, but I do think the national team has, not necessarily gotten worse. I think they just stayed the same. It's been a constant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's flatlined. It hasn't. The national team hasn't decently, gone down as far as quality level. I think it probably has flatlined, if not gone up. But it's you got to put the U.S. in context of CONCACAF. Look at the Costa Rican squad. In the 2006 World Cup, they had one player playing in Major League Soccer. In 2014, there were 3. And then just recently, last week when they played in Red Bull Arena, they had 6 players from MLS. Look at Honduras. 1 player was playing in Major League Soccer in 2010. 2014, it was 4. And then when they played the United States, it was 4 again. But you're seeing this growth come up, and you're like, well, the thing is, you see these players from Latin America play in Major League Soccer. Major League Soccer is the second best league here in CONCACAF? First? I don't know.
Yeah, Liga MX is number 1.
Liga MX is number 1. Well, they're playing against American quality players, so they know what to expect when it comes to the World Cup qualifying. And you bring a great example of the English team. Oh, England, the Premier League, probably the most fascinating league there is in the world. Hell, we could spend the next 20 minutes talking about the Premier League, and I wouldn't get bored. I'd love it, you know. But you